I can tell you, and your attorney can probably tell you, the person who's 80 years old and you scammed them out of $12,000, they're probably on a fixed income. They worked all their life to save that, and you came in. I've been told by Becky on the other side, on the civil side, I knew her from CPS cases. She said, hey, you got to cheer for Texas Tech.
No, you don't. No, there's no requirement.
Now, Kelly is saying yes. You all going to have to.
That's the reason not to cheer for Texas Tech.
There's going to have to be a debate, right?
Judge, as long as the Longhorns are out, I'm happy.
Ooh. Ooh.
Short horns.
And have you talked to Jason Garhan?
No.
About what is he? Texas A&M? Yeah.
It's kind of a cult.
And has somebody talked to Notre Dame? They're still upset.
You have deprogramming for all the A&M fans.
I don't even know if I should take this up because of Oklahoma.
Do it for my dad.
Okay, all right, I'll do it for him. He has LSU roots. And your mom. Their love story was so great. Your sister told me about their love story.
She told me them by my dad getting arrested.
Yeah, she told me about that, and I can joke with him. We've known each other forever. All right, the court is calling 2023 CR 5888, State versus Anaya Gifford. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Megan Galloway for the state.
What you are about to watch is a sentencing hearing for a woman who participated in one of the most calculated and predatory types of fraud that targets some of the most vulnerable people in our communities. A grandparent scam. The scheme works like this. Someone calls an elderly person completely out of nowhere and tells them that their grandchild is in serious danger. Maybe they say the grandchild has been arrested. Maybe they say there has been an accident. The details change, but the urgency is always the same. Money needs to be sent immediately, or something terrible is going to happen to someone they love. The victim in this case is 80 years old, and he handed over $12,000 because he believed his grandson was in danger. And this defendant is not walking into the state court hearing with a clean record. She has already served 30 months in a federal prison as part of a related conspiracy case out of San Diego that involved over $1 million in total restitution spread across multiple victims. This hearing is not about a first mistake or a moment of poor judgment. This is about a documented pattern of deliberately targeting elderly people, and this judge has read every single page of this file before a single word is spoken in this courtroom today.
For the defendant, Your Honor.
And are you Ms. Gifford? All right, you entered a plea of guilty on October 16th. There was a request for a PSI. And according to your plea bargaining agreement, punishments be assessed at a cap of 8 years in the prison. There's a $1,000 fine. The state is opposed to your application. And there's restitution of $12,000 to Mr. Holtzworth. Have both parties had a chance to review the PSI?
Yes, I've reviewed it, Your Honor, and I have no objections.
I don't have any objections, Judge.
All right. And are there any witnesses?
The state has no witnesses, Your Honor.
No, Judge, I just have an argument.
All right. The court will hear argument. State you're opposed?
I am, Your Honor. I'm asking for the court to deny the application and sentence her to 8 years and reserve the rest of my time.
So, Judge, I want to point out, from looking at this, Ms. Gifford was sentenced to a federal prison for a conspiracy charge that I think this case arose out of. She was released, I think, actually with a warrant in place from the federal penitentiary, and then made bond here. And I don't know why this was not included originally with the federal prosecution, or if in fact I don't have a copy of the federal PSI, and I can't really determine whether or not the complainant in this one is actually a complainant involved on the federal case. And if the court notes, there's a restitution amount among all the people who were sentenced of $1,235,000. Ms. Gifford's currently paying restitution to federal supervised release, which is the federal equivalent of parole, for this, the federal charges. And she's employed now. She lives in Georgia, and is, I guess, is capable of, of paying restitution on this case. If the court grants her deferred, obviously it would have been better for her if this case had been included in the federal sentence. I think
Right here is a legal detail that is very easy to overlook in the back and forth of this hearing, but it carries enormous weight for understanding exactly where this case stands and why the defense is making the argument it is making. The defense attorney is raising a very specific and actually legitimate point. He is arguing that this state-level charge appears to arise out of the exact same criminal conspiracy that was already prosecuted federally in San Diego. And if that is accurate, then the ideal outcome from a legal efficiency standpoint would have been for this charge to be bundled into the federal prosecution from the very beginning, so that everything could have been resolved in a single proceeding. The problem is that nobody in this courtroom today can confirm with certainty whether the specific victim in the state case was also included as a complainant in the federal case, and whether he was accounted for in that original $1 million restitution order. And until that question can be answered definitively, the judge cannot fully evaluate what restitution has already been addressed through the federal system and what remains genuinely outstanding and unpaid. That single unresolved question is doing an enormous amount of work in this courtroom right now, and it is the reason this hearing cannot simply be resolved on the spot today.
how much
I got sentenced to 57 months and I served 30 months.
So if the court doesn't grant her application, I ask the court to give her credit for the time she spent in the federal penitentiary, since this is in fact, I think, out of the same fact pattern and I think the same conspiracy. But I would ask, since she's been released and she's paying restitution now, that the court grant her probation and get her pay restitution on this case as well. Like I said, I have no way of determining what restitution was ordered. I would assume it's jointly and severally among the conspirators, but I don't know if the complainant in question on this case was one of the complainants on the federal case.
All right. And my understanding in this case, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going from memory, this is a case where the complainant was told that their grandson was
That's correct.
in
That's right.
dire straits and that they needed someone to take their money. I'm sorry, they needed someone to withdraw money to save him from the dire straits that he was in.
That's correct. Your Honor.
All right.
Stop right here, because what the judge just did is one of the most deliberately intentional and psychologically precise moments you will see in any of these hearings. She did not stand up and deliver a lecture about the impact of elder fraud in broad or abstract terms. She did not cite statistics about how many elderly Americans lose their savings to scams every year. She did not talk about the criminal justice system's responsibility to protect vulnerable populations. She did something far more direct and far more powerful than any of that. She took the exact script that was used on an 80-year-old man sitting in his home, and she pointed it directly at this defendant. She asked her to imagine that the phone is ringing right now, and the voice on the other end is telling her that her own mother has been in an accident and will be arrested unless $12,000 is transferred immediately. That is word for word the same emotional manipulation that was used on the victim in this case. The same urgency, the same fear, the same targeting of someone's love for a family member. The judge is not trying to shame her publicly. She is trying to create one single moment of genuine understanding in a hearing where the human cost of what happened has been buried under legal arguments and federal case comparisons.
All right. State.
Judge, so what Mr. Mauer represented to the court is correct. There was a federal prosecution.
Excuse me just a second. All right. I can see you're pregnant, so there's no need to
I'm not trying to show
Okay.
that off.
All right. Thank
And right here, the judge says something that cuts through every legal argument that has been made in this courtroom today and lands directly and without any softening on the human reality of what actually happened to the person at the center of this case. She told this defendant plainly and on the record that the 80-year-old man who handed over $12,000 was almost certainly living on a fixed income. that the money he gave away was not sitting in an account as discretionary savings he could afford to lose. It was money he had spent an entire lifetime working to earn and carefully save and protect for himself and his family. And this defendant, along with her co-conspirators, targeted him with precision specifically because of his age and his vulnerability, and because calling elderly people and exploiting their love for their grandchildren was easier and more profitable than finding legitimate employment. The judge is not making a purely legal observation in this moment. She is making a moral one. And she is making sure that observation is stated clearly and completely on the record in this courtroom before any decision about this woman's future is made. What do you think should happen when she walks back through that door in February?
Prosecution that occurred out of San Diego, and the court is aware of the $1 million restitution that they were ordered to pay out of San Diego. I didn't have anything to indicate that this victim was included in that. However, this was a very big conspiracy that they put together where they were targeting the elderly individuals. The victim in this case is 80 years old and was targeted because of that. Called and told that his grandson was in danger and that he needed to spend $12,000 immediately to provide safety to his grandson. And the $12,000 is agreed upon. The evidence did point back that it did go into this defendant's Chase bank account. And in the stipulated evidence, the Chase bank records are in there where the account is belonging to Anijah Gifford, Your Honor. And so we would ask that you order the restitution if you do give her community supervision, but I just don't believe that she's a good candidate for community supervision. So we would ask that you deny the application.
All right. I'm not saying I'm going to deny it or grant it, but when are you going to have this $12,000?
If I'm being honest, I can't give a specific date, but I can make payments, whatever you order. If you order for me to make a specific payment, I can work on that.
All right, here's my question. Do you have any loved ones?
Yes.
Mom, dad? All right, let's assume that someone's picking up the phone and calling you and saying, hey, your mom has been in this accident and we're going to arrest her unless $12,000 is paid. I can tell you, and your attorney can probably tell you, the person who's 80 years old and you scammed them out of $12,000, they're probably on a fixed income. They worked all their life to save that, and you came in because you didn't want to get a job and you wanted to build your happiness off somebody else's misery. So I want to know when you're going to have this $12,000, and I can tell you the latest is going to be in February.
I can do that.
I think that's a good idea, Judge.
All right. And I'm not saying I'm going to grant it, but what I'm saying, that would probably help your case tremendously because he needs his $12,000. So, Ms. Ferguson, recall this for sentencing in February, and you need to have the $12,000 and you need to be here in court.
I will be here.
All right.
I'll get her to sign a reset form.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you back on February 2nd. At that time, you need to come with $12,000. And state, does that need to be in cashier's check, money order?